True stories told by real people.
When I was younger, around 8 or 9, I went over to my best friend's house for a sleepover. Her parents had just recently gone through a messy divorce, and her mom reached out to mine and thought it was a good idea she had some friends to spend the night with since she was apparently experiencing frequent night terrors. I only found this out until later on. We'll refer to her as Elle. So there's about 6 of us, and we're in Elle's attic spending the night. After all the junk food and gossip, we decided to sleep since it was around 3 a.m. Right before deciding to sleep, Elle mentioned the reason why her parents were getting a divorce is because her dad cheated on her mom with the mom's hairdresser, and the mom kicked him out and changed all the locks. She said she was scared of him showing up because of how loud he would always yell. I felt so sorry for her having to go through that. We all tried to make her feel better and safe, but then decided it was time to sleep. I'm usually the last one to fall asleep, so as I was drifting off, I feel someone nudging my shoulder asking me if I'm okay. And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine, why?" Still with my eyes closed. And the person says, "Wake up, don't sleep yet, I can't sleep." So I open my eyes to see Elle standing above me with her eyes closed. I told her she already looked like she's asleep and to go back to bed because I'm too sleepy. She nudged my shoulder again and then started crying loudly, then walked away to her side of the attic and went back in her bed. I looked around thinking everyone would wake up for sure, but no one did, and she stopped crying as soon as she got into bed. I stayed there frozen for so long thinking she would wake up again or do something different. Then I got worried, so I walked over to her side and happened to look outside the window to see a man standing by a tree in their front yard, just standing in all black and looked like he was waiting. I never made it to her side to check on her. I sprinted back to where I was and just sat there. Needless to say, I never slept that night. And to this day, I'm still confused as to why no one else woke up when she cried, and why she made it to my side without making any noise, seeing as the floor creaked a lot anytime someone moved. She had no idea what I was talking about when I asked her in the morning. Her mom denied everything. I felt like I was going crazy until my mom explained her night terrors to me. She freaked when I told her about the man waiting outside. We assumed it was Elle's dad, but who knows?
Story 2. The static presence in my bedroom.
When I was a young kid, my room was in the spacious downstairs rumpus area. Whilst I felt independent in the sense that I had free roam of the area, I always felt slightly uneasy being so far from the rest of my family at night. I to this day remember a recurring nightmare I experienced in that room. My father had given me his hi-fi player and would put a CD on to help lull me to sleep and provide a sense of comfort before I drifted off. This was a nightly routine, and I would play all sorts of music, from Pink Floyd to the Stranglers. One night, I woke to the music off, but the amplifier light still bright and often flickering. In my dreamlike state, I stumbled out of bed to try and turn the CD player off, only to be overwhelmed with a feeling of static, almost like the CD player was transmitting its frequency throughout my own body, using it as an antenna. This feeling I can only describe was like the most intense yet painless pins and needles, and culminated in every hair standing on end. As the sensation subsided, I felt almost paralyzed. I was able to move, but it took every ounce of strength to pull myself back up into the bed. Once under the covers, the static noise seemed to materialize in front of me. Not in the visual sense, but more in a dark, emotive way. It was a shadowy yet malevolent feeling, but still unwelcoming. I distinctly remember my flight or fight instincts kicking in, and the most logical conclusion I arrived at was to play dead. My thought process was something along the lines of, "This presence can't affect me if I don't respond to it." So I remained perfectly still, careful to not even take a breath out of sync. Eventually, I fell back to sleep, but would have the exact same dream almost every night. The funny thing is, I never felt scared or threatened by this presence, more confused. It was like a higher being that had complete auditory and physical control over me.
I've told this before, and it might get buried, but anyway. When I was in college, my dorm room was haunted. My bedside lamp would turn on and off by itself when nothing was wrong with it, and my things would sometimes slide across my desk without being touched. It was creepy, but my roommate and I just kind of tried to ignore it. It only happened with my stuff as far as we knew. Then one day, I was in my dorm room taking a nap because my roommate was gone for the weekend. I fell asleep and had a dream of a black figure holding a staff following me around. My dreams were basically a recap of all of my day's activities, running errands, going to class, etc. When I saw him, I remember feeling intense dread and going, "Oh, it's you." I felt like I knew this creature had been following me for a long time. It was completely black with huge eyes and white teeth, and it had a really unsettling grin. It seemed like it was taunting me, for lack of better term. I woke up from my nap and rolled over, and it was at the edge of my raised bed, grinning. I squeezed my eyes shut and hoped it would be gone, but when I opened them again, it was on top of me, and I couldn't breathe. It seemed like this lasted forever, but finally I was able to get it off of me and fully sit upright. So I turned on my bedside lamp, and then it turned off. And by this time I was hysterical, so I pleaded, "Oh no, please no," and turned it on, and then it went off again, and I finally fled my room. I didn't tell anyone except my suite mate, girl who lived next door. Our rooms were attached by a shared bathroom, and she was understanding. She gave me a little Buddha figure that I still have next to my bed, years later. And while this could be explained by sleep paralysis, but the absolute scariest part was that the next day my other suite mate, who knew nothing of what happened to me, said that she was in her room with the door open and saw a shadowy figure of a man standing in the hall looking at her, and then it turned away and took a big step toward my room at the exact time I was sleeping that afternoon.
Story 4. Sleep Paralysis, Gunshot, and Ghost Hand.
I was living by myself and sleeping on an air mattress. It was morning and light out, and I woke up to the sound of my apartment front door opening, then furniture being moved. I heard the wires being unplugged from my computer as someone was stealing it and hauling it away. I heard banging in the kitchen and the cabinets opening, footsteps, and then the door to my bedroom open as I lay on my back staring at the ceiling. Then I heard an unbelievably loud gunshot. Then I felt a deep, sinking sensation. I thought my air mattress was deflating from being shot. Either that, or I was actually experiencing the feeling of dying. Sleep paralysis. The audio hallucinations are incredibly vivid. You're on your back, unable to move, with your eyes wide open, dreaming. I must have fallen back asleep for a while after that, and later bolted awake and rushed out to my living room to find nothing stolen. I had an episode recently where I was aware that I was having sleep paralysis and told my husband next to me that I couldn't move and was having trouble breathing. He put his hand on my shoulder and told me I was going to be fine. I was just dreaming and I'd wake up soon. I was able to move my hand to touch his hand, but his hand wasn't there. I snapped awake and realized he wasn't there at all. The experience was so real it was haunting. Sleep paralysis plagues me all the time. It's more common in migraine sufferers, but it's genuinely given me some of the freakiest experiences of my life. I get where alien abduction stories come from. They were probably experiencing sleep paralysis.
I have chronic nightmares which can be really vivid sometimes. This happened maybe 5 years ago when I was about to turn 17. It usually takes me a while to go to sleep, so every once in a while I open my eyes and see how dark it is outside. I can see the window from my bed. It is still really dark, so I close my eyes and try to sleep. After a while, I get this feeling like someone is looking at me. My younger sister liked to check on me while I was sleeping if she got up in the middle of the night, so it wasn't uncommon for me to feel like someone was looking over me. So I opened my eyes and looked towards the foot of my bed to see that the hallway light was off, which was usually on when my sister checked up on me. I brushed it off, deciding that I just looked too late. I closed my eyes when a couple minutes later, I felt that someone had walked into the room. My sister also happened to be the person who woke me up every morning by walking into my room and just yelling my name. So again, this feeling wasn't unusual. So I opened my eyes to tell her that I was awake when I saw this towering figure next to me. It took everything I had to not scream, to not breathe, and to not move a fucking muscle. I stayed so still it started to hurt. Eventually, the tall figure bent over and tucked me in. I noticed that he was faceless. His form barely kept him together, and he was terribly cold. He left. I stayed up the rest of the night trying to keep as still as possible. Eventually, I heard someone calling my name. I stayed as still as possible, but eventually something shook me so hard I felt myself fall out of my body. I woke up to my sister waking me up. I dreamt the whole thing. She'd woken me up because I had apparently been screaming while I was sleeping, but I never screamed in my dream. Scariest and weirdest experience of my life. It's kind of tame compared to some of the stuff in here, but I'll share. I suffer from sleep paralysis. I think, self-diagnosed. I'll wake up and be awake but unable to move or speak for what feels like a very long time. It happens maybe once or twice a year, and it's fucking terrifying. My hearing is cranked to 11. Every creak or groan of my floors is magnified. Every bump or scrape is like a freight train in my head, and I can never shake the feeling of paranoia mixed with dread when it happens until the next morning when the sun comes up. This isn't so bad. I know it happens. I'm kind of aware when it's happening. I know how to root myself back in reality when it ends. I can deal with it. I couldn't when I was 5. I had had a waking nightmare. She was tall, impossibly slender, and had wild hair that looked like coiled snakes draped in shadow. She was standing at the foot of my bed, staring intently at me. I couldn't move a muscle. I couldn't scream. No matter how hard I tried to bolt for the door, I couldn't. This went on for what felt like hours. She moved a little, would straighten up, tilt her head, things like that, but was always looking at me. I finally came to fully and was able to run to my parents' room. They checked my room over, said it was a nightmare, and tucked me back into bed. I wouldn't get off my bed the next morning because I was so sure she'd hidden under there and was waiting to pull me under. I was 5. This was 21 years ago, and it's my most vivid memory of the first house I lived in. I can remember it like it happened last night. I'm not scared of the dark. I live on my own, and I've never actually had a prowler around that I knew of, but the space underneath beds will forever freak me out. Happened again a few months ago. In my nightmare, the stairs started to eat me feet first. When I woke up, I was in such a position that I could see my alarm clock, but couldn't move, and had this indescribable feeling of something behind me that I couldn't look at. It lasted 10 minutes. I had to call a buddy and just talked for a while before I could calm down. I know nothing was there, and I was perfectly safe, but it felt like she had saved my life that night just by picking up the phone. Sleep paralysis is no joke.